She had exactly $5 in her pocket and a heart full of fragile hope when she stepped into the most expensive restaurant in the city for a blind date that was never real. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe. The late autumn rain fell soft and steady over the city, turning the sidewalks into long, glistening mirrors. Streetlights bloomed like quiet stars in the wet dusk. Inside a small apartment on the 4th floor, the air smelled of lemon polish and old coffee. Mia Harper stood before the narrow mirror in the hallway. 18 years old, slim and straight-backed, her fair skin flushed from the walk home earlier. Her shoulder-length brown hair was tied into a neat ponytail, a few strands already escaping. She wore the navy blue dress her mother had altered. Simple cotton, knee-length, the fabric slightly worn at the seams but clean and pressed with care. No jewelry except the thin silver necklace her grandfather had given her years ago. Her eyes, large and dark, held a mixture of hope and quiet fear. She had walked 40 blocks to save bus fare, the 5 single-dollar bills folded tight in her coat pocket like a secret promise. She remembered the night before. Elena Harper, her mother, 44, medium tan skin, dark hair pinned in a low bun, had sat at the kitchen table under the single bulb. Hands rough from years of cleaning other people's houses, she stitched the hem by hand because the sewing machine had long since broken. Her shoulders ached, but she smiled anyway. "You deserve one beautiful night, baby," she said, voice low and steady. Mia had hugged her then, feeling the familiar scent of soap and faint lavender. Now, standing alone, that memory settled in her chest like warm coal. She took a slow breath and stepped out into the rain. The walk to Seaside Manor was long. The city changed around her. Wide avenues lined with doormen and polished cars gave way to quieter streets. Then finally the glow of the restaurant's heavy wooden doors. Inside, the air was warm, scented with grilled fish and polished oak. Chandeliers cast soft gold light over white tablecloths. Mia felt small, but she lifted her chin. The hostess led her to a corner table near the window. She ordered tap water with ice, nothing more. The $5 had to last. Minutes passed, then 10, then 20. She kept her phone face down, checking it only when the screen lit up. First, a message from Isabella Voss, a photo of Tyler Grant laughing with friends at a pizza place, arm around Isabella's shoulder. Then another, "Oh my God, did you actually go?" The words blurred. Mia's throat tightened. She stared at the empty chair across from her. The ice in her glass had melted into a thin pool. She felt the room tilt slightly, the low murmur of other diners suddenly loud in her ears. She did not cry. She would not give them that. She folded her napkin once, then again, smoothing the creases with careful fingers. In her mind, her grandfather's voice came back. Walter Harper, 78, short white hair, steady gaze. "We don't bow. We don't break." She repeated it silently, like a prayer. The waiter approached, polite but distant. "Will your party be arriving soon, miss?" And she managed a small nod. "Soon," she whispered. From a larger table near the fireplace, Lucas Bennett watched. 18, tall, dark brown hair neatly combed, light skin, wearing a white dress shirt and navy blazer. His father, Richard, sat across from him, talking mergers and numbers with 2 men in suits. Lucas had heard the quiet chime of the door when Mia entered, had noticed the way she walked, back straight, eyes forward, as though she belonged even when she did not. He saw the color drain from her face when she looked at her phone. He saw the way she straightened her spine afterward, refusing to fold. He did not know her name yet, but he knew the look. He had seen it once, years ago, on his mother's face before she was gone. A quiet woman from a small town, made to feel small again and again. The memory rose sharp and sudden. Lucas felt something shift inside him. Something old. Something angry. Something kind. He stood. The room seemed to pause as he crossed the floor. Mia looked up, startled. Lucas met her eyes. His voice was calm, low, almost gentle. "She's with me," he said to the waiter, then softer to her. "You don't have to sit here alone." Mia stared at him, heart pounding. She did not know this boy. She did not trust this moment. But in that small space between them, something unspoken passed, a recognition, perhaps, of the same quiet hurt carried in different pockets. She rose slowly. The rain kept falling outside the tall windows. Somewhere in the city, a dog barked once, then fell silent. The rain tapped gently against the tall windows of Seaside Manor, a steady rhythm like an old clock counting heartbeats. Inside, the fire in the hearth crackled low, sending shadows dancing across white linen and polished silver. The smell of cedar smoke mingled with the faint salt of the sea beyond the glass. Lucas Bennett led Mia to the large table by the fireplace. His hand rested lightly on her elbow. Not possessive, just steady. Richard Bennett looked up first. 50 years old, tall and impeccably groomed, his graying hair combed back, face carved by years of decisions that left no room for doubt. His dark suit fit like armor. His eyes, sharp and measuring, flicked from his son to the girl in the simple navy dress. Two men in similar suits sat beside him, business associates, silent witnesses. Lucas pulled out a chair for Mia. She sat, hands folded in her lap, the thin silver necklace catching a flicker of firelight. Richard spoke first, voice smooth as polished stone. "And who might this be, Nathaniel?" He used the full name, the way fathers do when they want to remind you of lineage. Lucas met his father's gaze. "Her name is Mia Harper. She's with me tonight." The words hung there, simple and final. Mia felt the weight of every eye at the table. She lifted her chin the way her grandfather had taught her. Richard leaned back slightly, steepling his fingers. "Harper," he repeated, tasting the name. "And what do the Harpers do?" Mia answered without hesitation. "My mother is a maid, sir. She works for the Wallace family on the east side." The sentence came out clear, quiet, proud. She thought of Elena's hands, red from bleach, gentle when they brushed her hair at night. No shame lived in that truth. Silence followed, thick as the smoke from the fire. One of the businessmen cleared his throat, but no one spoke. Lucas felt the old ache rise again. He saw his mother's face in memory. Soft brown hair, tired smile, the way she'd look down when people asked where she came from. She had never hidden it. She had never apologized for it. And they had still made her feel small. He spoke then, voice low but steady. "I asked her to join us because she was alone, and because I remember what it felt like to watch someone be made to feel they didn't belong." He looked at his father. Mom would have done the same. Richard's jaw tightened, just a fraction. The name of the woman long gone still carried power. He said nothing, but his eyes darkened. Mia heard the shift in Lucas's tone, the crack beneath the calm. She glanced at him. For the first time, she saw not the rich boy, but the son carrying a quiet wound. The waiter returned with fresh water, bottled this time, sparkling, unasked for. Lucas pushed a glass toward Mia. She did not drink. She felt exposed, yet strangely held. Richard resumed speaking of contracts and figures, but the conversation had lost its rhythm. After a time, Lucas stood again. "We're going to step outside for a moment." He looked at his father. "I'll be back." Richard's mouth formed a thin line, but he nodded once. Lucas placed a crisp $20 bill on the table beside Mia's untouched glass. "For the water," he said quietly. The gesture was small, deliberate. A quiet defiance wrapped in courtesy. Mia rose. As they walked past the other tables, she felt the eyes follow them, but she kept her back straight. Outside, the rain had eased to mist. The air smelled clean, of wet stone and distant salt. Lucas turned to her. "I didn't mean to make you feel like charity," he said. "I just couldn't watch it happen again." Mia looked at him then. Really looked. She saw the boy beneath the blazer, the one who still carried his mother's memory like a stone in his pocket. She did not speak right away. The mist settled on her hair like fine silver. In that pause, something softened between them. Not trust, not yet, but the beginning of understanding. They stood there a long moment, two young people under the same quiet rain, each carrying their own small inheritance of hurt and hope. The mist had thickened into a fine, cold veil by the time they stepped outside Seaside Manor. Street lamps glowed soft orange through the haze, their light pooling on wet pavement like spilled honey. The city exhaled quietly. Distant horns, the low hum of a passing car, the soft patter of rain on canvas awnings. No one else walked the sidewalk. It was just the two of them. Mia turned to Lucas before he could speak. Her voice came out low, trembling with something sharper than fear. "You shouldn't have done that." She stood small in the navy dress, shoulders squared, ponytail damp and clinging to her neck. "You made me a spectacle, a charity case. I was going to leave with what little dignity I had left." Her eyes, dark, steady, held his without flinching. "I don't need a rich boy to save me. I don't need anyone to save me." Lucas stood still. The rain beaded on his blazer, darkening the navy wool. He did not interrupt. He listened. When she finished, he spoke quietly. "I know. 2 words. Simple." He looked past her into the mist, remembering again the way his mother used to stand, small, proud, refusing pity. "I didn't do it to make you feel small," he said. "I did it because I couldn't stand watching someone else feel small." Mia searched his face. She saw no arrogance there, only a quiet ache. Something in her softened, just a fraction. Not forgiveness, not yet, but recognition. She turned and walked away. He did not follow. The mist swallowed her footsteps. The apartment building smelled of bleach and warm rice when Mia pushed open the door. 3rd floor, 4th apartment down the narrow hall. The living room was dim, lit only by the blue flicker of the television left on low. Elena Harper lay asleep on the worn couch, still in her gray maid's uniform, apron untied and draped over the armrest. Her breathing was slow, deep, the kind that comes after a double shift. Mia knelt beside her, lifted the thin Afghan from the back of the couch, and covered her mother gently. Elena stirred but did not wake. A small sigh escaped her lips. Exhaustion and relief in one breath. Mia sat on the floor a moment, watching her mother's face. The lines around her eyes had deepened this year. The hands folded across her chest were chapped, nails short. Mia felt the familiar ache rise in her throat. She leaned her head against the couch cushion and closed her eyes. Walter Harper's voice came from the back bedroom, rough as gravel. "That you, Claire Bear?" He wheeled himself into the doorway. 78 years old, thin but broad-shouldered still, short white hair clipped close, eyes sharp beneath heavy brows. He wore his usual plaid shirt and cardigan, trousers pressed despite the wheelchair. His hands rested on the armrests, strong, veined, scarred from decades of work. He looked at his granddaughter and knew. "Come here," he said. Mia rose and crossed the small room. She sat on the edge of his bed. The mattress dipped under her weight. Walter reached out, placed a large, warm hand on her knee. "Tell me," he said. She told him everything. The empty chair, the laughing photo, the cold eyes at the big table, the boy who had stood up for her and made it worse. When she finished, tears came, silent and hot. Walter listened without interrupting. When she was done, he squeezed her knee gently. "You're a Harper," he said. "We don't bow. We don't break." He paused. The room was quiet except for the soft tick of the wall clock. They can laugh. They can sneer. But they can't take what's yours, your name, your spine, your heart. Mia wiped her eyes. "I told him to stay away," she whispered. Walter nodded slowly. "Good. You don't need his kind of help. But remember this. Help that comes from pity is cheap. Help that comes from respect, that's rare. And you deserve respect." He looked at her a long moment. "Monday morning, you walk into that school like you own the ground. Head high, eyes forward, let them see what strength looks like." Mia breathed in. The ache in her chest eased, replaced by something solid, something old and sure. She leaned forward and rested her forehead against his shoulder. He smelled of aftershave and worn cotton. Outside, the rain had stopped. A single car passed on the street below. In the quiet of the small apartment, under the hum of the refrigerator and the faint blue light of the television, Mia felt the first faint stirrings of resolve. Not anger, not shame. Something gentler, something stronger. She would go back to school. She would face them. and she would do it carrying the weight of her mother's hands and her grandfather's voice. The early morning light filtered through heavy curtains in the Harrington house, casting long shadows across the polished hardwood floors. A distant dog whined softly from the neighbor's yard, its voice carrying a note of quiet longing. The air inside smelled of fresh coffee and old leather-bound books. Outside, the mist from last night's rain clung to the leaves. Lucas Bennett stood in the study, facing his father. Richard sat behind a wide oak desk, papers spread before him like a map of conquests. The argument had started softly, as these things do. Over breakfast, a simple question about the night before. "She's beneath you, son," Richard said now, voice even, eyes unyielding. Lucas felt the words land like stones in still water. He thought of Mia walking away into the mist, her back straight, her pride unbroken. "You don't know her," he replied. "You don't know what it's like to be looked at like that, like you're nothing." Richard leaned back in his leather chair, fingers drumming slowly. A muscle in his jaw twitched, the only sign of the storm within. He remembered his own youth, the choices he'd made to climb, the things he'd left behind, including her, Lucas's mother. "Distractions like that," he said, "they pull you down. Focus on what matters. The family name, the future." Lucas met his father's gaze. The room fell quiet, save for the faint tick of the grandfather clock in the hall. He saw the man who had built everything, but also the one who had lost so much in the building. "Maybe the future isn't just about climbing," Lucas whispered. "Maybe it's about lifting others up." He turned and left. Richard stared at the empty doorway, the coffee in his cup growing cold. At Harrington Prep, the halls echoed with the low buzz of morning arrivals. Lockers clanged softly. Voices rose and fell like waves. Mia walked through the wide oak doors, her navy dress from the night before replaced by the school uniform. Simple skirt and blouse. Neat but worn at the edges. She felt every eye on her. Whispers followed like shadows. Isabella Voss stepped forward first, blonde hair waving perfectly, her smile sharp as glass. 18, tall and poised, she wore the uniform like a crown. Tyler Grant leaned against a locker nearby, messy blonde hair, smirk in place. "Oh, Mia," Isabella said, voice sweet poison. "How was your little date?" The hall quieted. Laughter rippled from the group behind her. Mia stopped. Her heart pounded, but she lifted her chin. "It was an education," she said quietly. "I learned what you're made of. Nothing special." The words landed soft but true. Isabella's smile faltered. A boy from the crowd, 17, slight build, glasses, joined in with a jeer, but his eyes held something else. Regret, perhaps. Later, in the empty stairwell, he approached Mia alone. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I know what it's like. They did it to me last year." Mia looked at him. She saw the boy he was. Hurt. Healing. "Thank you," she said. The air in the stairwell smelled of polished wood and faint chalk dust. In that moment, she felt less alone. The wound from the night before stung less. Strength, she realized, could come from unexpected places. The cafeteria hummed with midday noise, trays clattering, chairs scraping against tile floors. Sunlight streamed through high windows, warming the room in patches. Lucas sat at his usual table, but his mind was elsewhere. He saw Mia enter, alone, head high. Then the group closed in. Isabella, Tyler, their followers. A girl tripped, her tray tilting toward Mia, ketchup and fries aimed like arrows. Lucas moved without thinking. He stood between them, the food hitting his blazer instead. The room went silent. He picked a fry from his lapel, looked at it, then at the crowd. "You missed," he said calmly. He tossed his stained blazer aside and sat at Mia's table. "Batnat only makes us weaker," he told them, "not stronger." Whispers started again, but different now, softer, questioning. Lucas looked at Mia. She stared back, surprised but steady. In her eyes, he saw gratitude mixed with caution. He thought of his father's words that morning, the gap between them widening. But here, in this simple act, he felt a bridge forming. Not to his past, but to something new. Mia felt it too. The hurt from the restaurant lingered, but this was different. Not pity, respect. The dog outside the school grounds barked once, as if in agreement. The sunlight shifted, warming their table. In the quiet aftermath, as the cafeteria slowly resumed its rhythm, Lucas and Mia sat without speaking much. But in that shared silence, a quiet promise took root, not of rescue, but of alliance. Strength shared, hope renewed. The afternoon sun slanted through the tall windows of the Harrington prep classroom, turning dust motes into floating gold. Outside, a light breeze rustled the ivy on the stone walls. The air inside carried the faint scent of chalk and aged paper, a quiet place where young minds wrestled with old ideas. Mr. Harrison stood at the front, a man in his mid-40s, wire-rimmed glasses perched on a thoughtful face, salt and pepper hair neatly trimmed, wearing a tweed jacket over a simple shirt. His voice was gentle, laced with the wisdom of someone who had seen enough debates to know words could heal or harm. "Class and conflict in modern America," he announced. "You'll work in pairs. I've chosen them to spark new views." The list appeared on the board. Mia's name beside Lucas's. She froze. Her heart skipped, a quiet echo of the cafeteria's tension days before. Lucas glanced at her from across the room, his expression unreadable. Dark hair still neat, blazer replaced by a simple sweater. Mr. Harrison smiled faintly, eyes twinkling with intent. He knew what he was doing, stirring the pot, hoping for something real to emerge. Mia felt the room spin slightly. This was no accident. It was a bridge forced upon them. She thought of Walter's words, "Don't bow." But here in this pairing, she felt exposed again. Lucas met her eyes briefly. He nodded once, small and resigned. The bell rang. Students shuffled out. Mia gathered her books slowly, the weight of the assignment settling in her chest like an unopened letter. The public library downtown was a sanctuary of sorts. High ceilings, rows of oak shelves worn smooth by countless hands, the air thick with the musty scent of old pages. Sunlight filtered through stained glass, casting colored patterns on the long wooden tables. Mia arrived first, choosing a spot near the window. She spread her notes, her uniform skirt straightened, ponytail neat despite the walk. Lucas appeared on time. Messenger bag slung over his shoulder, gray sweater casual but fine. He sat across from her, the table a wide barrier. "Donovan and Bennett," he said quietly. "No, Harper and Bennett." The names hung there, a reminder of worlds apart. They began with the outline. Mia spoke of the invisible engine. The workers like her mother, rising before dawn, hands raw from labor yet unseen. She shared a memory. Elena packing her lunch, always an apple, even when it meant going without. Her voice softened. Lucas listened. Really listened. He nodded slowly. Then he shared his side. The gilded cage. The expectations like chains. His father's voice echoing, "Sentiment is weakness." He admitted the loneliness, the way he'd once thought fitting in meant stepping on others, like the cafeteria. Mia looked at him. She saw the boy now, not the savior. Vulnerable, carrying his own quiet burdens. The sunlight shifted, warming the table between them. In that light, the barrier felt thinner. As they worked, a book caught their eye. Yellowed pages, stories of real lives. A boy from the projects who earned a scholarship. A girl who broke free through sheer will. Lucas read a passage aloud. He thought poverty defined him, but it forged him. He paused. The library was quiet, only the soft turn of pages nearby. Mia felt something stir. Recognition. "That's me," she said, dreaming of college, escaping the cycle. Lucas closed the book gently. "And this is me," he whispered, trapped in gold, but still trapped. He looked at her. "I thought you were weak that night, but you're stronger than I am." The words came out simple, honest. Mia's breath caught. She saw the regret in his eyes, the chokloi for assuming, for intervening without understanding. Tears pricked, but she blinked them back. Not pity. Not anymore. Understanding. They sat in silence a long moment. A dog outside the window, a golden retriever, old and gray-muzzled, watched passers-by with patient eyes. Its gaze seemed to say, "Time heals, if you let it." Mia reached across the table, not to touch, but to share a page. "Let's make this good," she said. Lucas nodded. The colored light from the glass danced on their notes. In that quiet corner of the library, as the sun dipped lower, Mia and Lucas found not just an outline, but a shared truth. Cages come in many forms, but keys are forged in empathy. They would finish the project. But more, they would see each other, truly, for the first time. The late afternoon light fell golden through the narrow windows of the Harper apartment, softening the edges of worn furniture and peeling yellow paint. A single lamp glowed on the side table, its shade yellowed with age. Outside, the wind carried the faint scent of wet leaves and distant wood smoke. The building was quiet, save for the slow creak of floorboards under careful steps. Lucas Bennett stood in the peeling lobby, a thick blue book cradled in his arms. He had come alone, no driver, no blazer, just jeans and a gray sweater, the same one from the library. The elevator groaned as it descended. Walter Harper wheeled out first, his plaid shirt crisp despite the years, eyes sharp beneath white brows. He stopped a few feet away, sizing the young man up. Lucas met his gaze steadily. "Mr. Harper," he said, voice low. "I brought the book for Mia. For our project." Walter studied him. The posture, the quiet hands, the absence of arrogance. "You're the one from the restaurant," he said. Not a question. Lucas nodded once. Walter reached out, took the book, turned it over slowly. "You didn't have to come yourself." Lucas looked at the floor, then back up. "I wanted to." Walter's expression softened, just a fraction. "Decency," he said. "That's rare these days." He handed the book to Mia, who had appeared quietly behind him. She took it, fingers brushing Lucas's for the briefest moment. Walter looked at Lucas again. "Thank you for the book, and for the kindness." He wheeled away slowly, leaving them in the dim light. Mia met Lucas's eyes. Something unspoken passed between them. Gratitude, caution, a fragile beginning. The apartment smelled of coffee and old wood. In that small space, a bridge had been crossed, quiet and sure. The classroom at Harrington Prep was hushed on presentation day. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, warming the rows of desks. The air smelled faintly of pencil shavings and fresh paper. Mr. Harrison sat at the front, notebook open, eyes expectant. In the back row, Richard Bennett sat alone. Dark suit impeccable, face unreadable, hands folded. He had come without warning. Lucas felt his father's presence like a weight on his chest. Mia stood beside him at the front, notes in hand, navy skirt pressed, posture straight. They began. Mia spoke first of the invisible engine. The workers who rise before dawn, who clean and cook and care, whose labor holds the world steady. She spoke of her mother's hands, the quiet strength in them. Her voice was clear, steady, carrying the weight of love. Lucas followed. He spoke of the gilded cage, the expectations that bind, the name that demands perfection, the loneliness that comes with it. He called sentiment a cancer, the way his father had taught him, but his tone cracked slightly. The room listened. Richard's face remained still, but his eyes never left his son. The Q&A came. Richard rose slowly. The room stilled. "Miss Harper," he said, voice calm, measured. "How can people like your mother, laborers, ever change a system like this?" The question hung heavy. Mia looked at him. She thought of Elena asleep on the couch, of Walter's hand on her knee, of the $5 she had carried like a shield. She thought of Lucas, sitting now with quiet eyes, waiting. "By teaching their children self-respect," she said, "and kindness. By showing them that worth isn't measured by money or names, but by how we treat each other." Her words were simple, but they landed deep. Richard stood motionless. Then slowly he nodded once, a small, almost imperceptible movement. The class remained silent, the weight of the moment settling over them like a blanket. In the doorway, unnoticed until now, Walter Harper had wheeled in. He had come quietly to see his granddaughter stand tall. His eyes met Lucas's across the room. He gave a single nod. Approval, respect. Lucas felt something loosen in his chest. Mia felt it too. The applause started slowly, then swelled. Mr. Harrison smiled. "A," he said softly. The grade was secondary. What mattered was the shift, the quiet acknowledgement that understanding had begun. Outside the classroom, as students filed past, Walter waited in the hall. He looked at Lucas. "You did right by her today," he said. Lucas swallowed. "I'm trying, sir." Walter reached out, placed a hand on the boy's arm. "Keep trying." Mia stood beside them, book clutched to her chest. The sunlight caught the silver necklace at her throat. In that hallway, under the hum of voices and the soft creak of the old building, 3 generations stood together. Not as rich and poor, but as people who had seen hurt and chosen kindness anyway. A promise lingered there. Unspoken but felt. Change begins small, in hearts that refused to harden. Snow had begun to fall again, soft and silent, blanketing the city in white hush. The lights of Seaside Manor glowed warm through the frosted windows, a quiet beacon against the winter dusk. Inside, the restaurant felt different now. Less grand, more intimate. The fire in the hearth burned low, casting gentle shadows across empty tables. Lucas Bennett waited at the same small corner table where Mia had once sat alone. No blazer tonight. Just the gray sweater, sleeves rolled to the elbows, a simple wool coat draped over the chair back. He looked up when she entered. Mia Harper stepped through the heavy doors, snowflakes melting in her dark hair, navy coat buttoned against the cold. She carried herself with the same quiet strength, but something had softened in her eyes. Lucas stood. "You came," he said, voice low, almost surprised. Mia nodded once, a small smile touching her lips. "I said I would." They sat. The waiter brought 2 bottles of Coke and a basket of French fries. Nothing more. The total came to $5. Lucas placed the bill on the table. Mia reached into her coat pocket, drew out the same 5 crumpled singles she had carried that first night. She set them beside his. "Keep the change," she said softly. Lucas looked at the money, then at her. A quiet laugh escaped him, not mocking, but relieved. The gesture was small, but it carried weight. No debt, no favor owed. Just equality. They ate slowly. The fries were hot, the Coke cold, the glass bottles sweating in the warm air. Conversation came in pieces, memories of the project, the classroom silence after their presentation, the way Richard had nodded once and left without a word. Lucas spoke of his father's quiet evenings now, longer silences at the dinner table, a book left open on the study desk. "He's thinking," Lucas said, maybe for the first time in years. Mia listened. She thought of Elena's hand smoothing her hair that morning, of Walter's approving nod when she told him about the club they were starting. "Bridging gaps," she said, "a place for scholarship kids and the others to talk. Really talk. About bullying, about money, about being seen." Lucas met her eyes. "We can do that." He paused. "Together." The word hung there, simple and true. Mia felt the old ache, the one from the empty chair, the laughing photo, fade further. Not gone, but quieter. Replaced by something warmer. She reached up, unclasped the thin silver necklace her grandfather had given her years ago. She held it out. Lucas looked at it, then at her. "Now we're equal," she said. He took it gently, fingers brushing hers. The metal was cool, warmed quickly by his palm. He slipped it into his pocket, close to his heart. The restaurant emptied slowly. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the sidewalks in soft white. A dog trotted past the window, an old golden retriever, gray around the muzzle, pausing to look in with patient eyes. It seemed to understand. Inside, Lucas and Mia sat in companionable silence. No grand promises, no rush to define what came next. Just two young people who had walked through hurt and found on the other side, respect. The fire crackled once, low and steady. Mia looked at Lucas. "Thank you," she said. "Not for saving me, for seeing me." He nodded. "Thank you for letting me." The words settled between them like snow, gentle, covering old wounds with quiet grace. In that small corner of the expensive restaurant, with $5 on the table and a necklace carried close, they had begun something new. Not romance, not rescue, but a shared belief. That class does not define a person. Self-respect and kindness do. And in that belief, there was hope. Steady, enduring, enough to carry them forward. As the snow settles softly outside, remember this, dear friends. In every quiet moment of loneliness, every ache of body or heart, kindness still finds a way to bridge the gaps. You are never truly alone. Your worth shines in the small acts of love you give and receive. May the Lord wrap you in his gentle peace, heal your pains, and fill your days with warmth. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs hope, drop a comment below with your own memory, and subscribe so we can walk this road together. God bless you all.